Chapter 7, Connor. A representative from the anti-divisional resistance shows up the next afternoon, 3 days late for his scheduled meeting with Connor. He's disheveled, paunchy, and drenched in sweat. And it's not even summer, Connor says, hoping to make the point that the sweltering Arizona summer is just a few months away. The ADR had better get their act together, or they are going to be a lot of angry AWOLs. That is, the ones who survived the heat. They meet in the retired Air Force One, which used to be the Admiral's personal quarters, but now serves only as a conference room. The man introduces himself as Joe Rinkin. But call me Joe. No formalities in the ADR. He sits at the conference table and pulls out a pad and pen to take notes. He's already glancing at his watch, as if there's somewhere else he'd rather be. Connor has a whole lot of gripes from every corner of the graveyard. Why are the food shipments so few and far between? Where are the medical supplies they requested? How about air conditioner and generator parts? Why are they not being warned when planes show up with new arrivals? And for that matter, why are the numbers coming in so light? 5 or 10 at a time, when the planes used to come in with 50 or more. With food supply being a constant issue, Connor doesn't mind the low numbers, but it troubles him. If fewer AWOLs are being found by the resistance, that means the Juvies, or worse, the so-called parts pirates, must be finding them first. What's wrong with you people? Why does the ADR keep ignoring all our requests? There's really nothing to worry about, Rinkin says, which sends up a red flag for Connor, because he never said anything about being worried. Things are still being reorganized. Still? No one ever told us things were being reorganized at all. And what do you mean by reorganized? Rinkin blocks his sweaty forehead with his shirt sleeve. Really, there's nothing to worry about. Over the course of a year, Connor has come to understand the anti-divisional resistance better than he wanted to. When he was just an AWOL, he had no choice but to trust that the ADR was a well-oiled rescue machine. But it was nothing of the sort. The only thing that ran smoothly was the graveyard. The Admiral had made sure of that, and Connor, following in his footsteps, keeps it that way. He should have realized things with the ADR were not as they appeared as soon as they accepted the Admiral's suggestion that Connor be the one to run the place, rather than installing a more experienced adult. If they were so willing to let a teenager manage their AWOL sanctuary, something was wrong somewhere. There was a crazy time when kids were coming in every few days. The graveyard boasted more than 2,000 kids, and the ADR sent shipments of everything they needed on a regular basis. Then, when Cap 17 passed, Connor was ordered to immediately release all the 17-year-olds, who were a large percentage of the graveyard population. But he made a command judgment to do it slowly, releasing them in increments so they didn't flood the city of Tucson with more than 900 homeless teenagers. The fact that they wanted him to just let all those kids go at once should have been another sign that the ADR leadership was faltering. Connor had released them over a period of 2 months, but the ADR cut their supplies immediately, as if those kids had suddenly ceased to be their problem. Between the released 17-year-olds, kids sent out on work programs that had been set in place by the Admiral, and kids who deserted when there wasn't enough food, the graveyard population had dropped to about 700. I see you've planted yourself quite a garden, and you're raising chickens as well, yes? Rinkin says. You must be fully sustainable by now. Not even close. The Green Isle produces only about 1/3 of the food that we need, and with the ADR flaking on our food shipments, we've had to resort to raiding market delivery trucks in Tucson. Oh dear, says Rinkin. That's all. Just oh dear. And he starts to gnaw on the end of his pen. Connor, whose patience has been frayed since day one, is tired of beating around the bush. Are you going to tell me something useful, or are you just here to waste my time? Rinkin says, It comes down to this, Connor. We believe the graveyard has been compromised. Connor cannot believe what this fool is telling him. Of course it's been compromised. I'm the one who told you it was compromised. The Juvies know about us, and since the day I took over, I've been saying we need to relocate. Yes, we're working on that, but in the meantime, we can't keep pouring valuable resources into a facility that could be taken out by the Juvies at any moment. So you're just going to let us rot here? I didn't say that. You seem to have everything under control. With any luck, the Juvies will never find the need to invade. With any luck? Connor stands and storms from the table. The resistance should be about action, not luck. But do you take action? No. I send you my plans to infiltrate harvest camps and ideas on how to free kids in nonviolent ways that won't piss people off and create a backlash. But all I hear from the ADR is, we're working on it, Connor, or we'll take it under advisement, Connor. And now you're telling me to rely on luck for our survival? What the hell is the ADR good for? Rinkin takes this as his cue to end the meeting, something he's clearly wanted to do since the moment he arrived. Hey, I'm just the messenger. Don't take this out on me. But there are some things Connor simply cannot help, and he finds himself swinging Roland's fist at Call Me Joe Rinkin's face. The punch connects with the man's eye, and he stumbles backwards into the bulkhead. He looks at Connor not with contempt but with fear, as if Connor might not stop there. So much for nonviolence. Connor backs off. There's my message, he says. Please take it back to the people who sent you. There's a wingless Boeing 747 airliner that has been gutted like just about every other plane in the graveyard and retrofitted with gym equipment. It's been named Jimbo, although some call it the fight deck, since so many brawls seem to break out there. This is where Connor goes to get out his frustrations. A big punching bag before him, he pounds it like a prize fighter, hell-bent on a first-round knockout. He imagines the faces of all the kids who pissed him off that day, all the ones who have excuses for not doing what they're supposed to do, and he spreads his anger further to people like Rinkin and the juvie cops that he's had to face, to the smiling counselors at the harvest camp who tried to make unwinding seem like a wholesome family-friendly activity, and finally to the faces of his parents who set in motion the clockwork that landed him here. For them, he can't hit that bag hard enough, and yet can't stomach the guilt he feels for feeling that way. The punches from his left hand are nothing compared to those from his right. He looks at the shark tattoo staring at him from the forearm. That tiger shark, even uglier than the real thing. He has to admit to himself that he's gotten used to it, but he'll never like it. The color of the hair that grows on that arm is also thicker and darker than that of his other arm. He's here, Connor tells himself. Roland is here with every punch I throw with this hand. And the worst part about it is that throwing those punches feels good, as if the arm itself was enjoying it. He moves toward a bench press, and a couple of kids who had been sharing it make way for him. A perk of being in charge. He looks at the weight, adds another 5 pounds on either side, then leans back ready to pump. Every day he does this, and every day this is the part he hates the most. Because nowhere is the difference between the left arm and his right clearer than on the bench press. The arm he was born with struggles to raise that bar, and suddenly he realizes that even now he's still fighting Roland. Need someone to spot you? Says the kid behind him. Connor tilts his neck to see, standing above him, the kid everyone just calls Starkey. Yeah, sure, Connor says. Thanks. He goes for another set, already feeling his natural arm aching but not wanting to give in to it. But after 7 reps, it starts to give out, and Starkey has to help him get the barbell back into the cradle. Starkey points at the shark on his right arm. You get that after Happy Jack? Connor sits up, nursing the burn in his muscles, and looks at the tattoo. It came with the arm. Actually, says Starkey, I was talking about the arm. The way I figure it, if the guy who's so against unwinding has an unwind's arm, it probably wasn't by choice. I'd love to hear how it happened. Connor laughs because no one's ever asked the question so blatantly. It's actually a relief to talk about it. There was this kid, a real tough guy. He tried to kill me once but couldn't go through with it. Anyway, he was the last kid unwound in Happy Jack. I was supposed to be next, but that's when the clappers blew up the chop shop. I lost my arm and woke up with this one. Trust me, it wasn't my choice. Starkey takes in the story and nods, not offering any judgment. Badge of honor, man, he says. Wear it loud. Connor tries to get to know every kid who arrives, at least a little bit, so they don't feel like just a number waiting to be caught and unwound. So what does he know about Starkey? He's got personality and a smile that's a little hard to read. He's got wavy red hair that didn't start that way, as evidenced by dark roots that have grown almost an inch since he arrived a month ago. He's a little short, solid, not scrawny. Stocky, that's the word, like a wrestler. And yet he has a confidence that makes him seem taller. There are also rumors that he killed a juvie cop or 2 while escaping, but they're only rumors. Connor remembers the day Starkey arrived. Every group of new arrivals have at least one kid who thinks blowing up harvest camps is a good idea. Actually, most of them probably think that, but kids are too intimidated upon arrival to shout it out. The ones who do turn out to either be problems or overachievers. Starkey, however, has kept a very low profile since his arrival. He's assigned to mess duty as a food server, and in the evenings he goes around performing little magic tricks for anyone who's interested. That makes Connor think back to his own first AWOL night. He was given shelter by a trucker who showed him an arm grafted at the elbow. It was the arm of an unwind that came with an ability to do card tricks. You'll have to let me see some of your card tricks, Starkey, Connor says, and Starkey seems a little surprised. You know everyone's name here? Only the ones who make an impression. Here, let's switch, says Connor. I'll spot you. They switch positions, and Starkey tries to lift the weight but can barely do 2 reps. I think I'll pass. Starkey sits up, taking a long look at him. Most people can't hold eye contact with Connor. It's either the scars or his legend that are too intimidating for them. Starkey, however, doesn't look away. Is it true that you risk getting caught to save a stork baby? Yeah, Connor says, not one of my brightest moments. Why'd you do it? Connor shrugs. Seemed like a good idea at the time. He tries to laugh it off, but Starkey's not laughing. I was a storked baby, Starkey tells him. I'm sorry to hear that. No, it's all good. I just want you to know I respect you for what you did. Thanks. Outside, someone calls for Connor in that my problem is earth-shattering tone of voice that he hears on a regular basis. Duty calls, take it easy, Starkey, and he leaves, feeling a little bit better than when he came in. But what he doesn't see is what happens after he's gone. Starkey lying back on the bench press, doing 20 reps of that same weight without even breaking a sweat. After the sun sets, Connor calls a meeting of his inner circle, a group of 7 that Hayden has dubbed the Holy of Holies, and the name stuck. They meet in Connor's private jet at the north head of the main aisle, rather than the old Air Force One, which still reeks of his meeting with Call Me Joe, the resistance rep. It wasn't Connor's idea to have his own private jet any more than it was his idea to wear blue camo. They were both Trace's suggestion to help solidify Connor's image as the fearless leader. What the hell kind of army wears blue camouflage anyway, he griped when Trace first suggested it. It's for air attacks by jetpack, Trace told him. Never actually attempted, but it works in theory. The idea was to set Connor apart from everyone else. The Admiral had his uniform all festooned with war medals. Connor needed something to match his own leadership style, whatever that might be. Although he wasn't too thrilled to be running the place like a boot camp, the Admiral had already set up things as a military dictatorship. It wasn't broke, so Connor didn't try to fix it. It had been suggested that Connor take over the old Air Force One, but that was the Admiral's style, not Connor's. Instead, he settled on a small, sleek, corporate jet from the outskirts of the graveyard, and had it towed to the north end of the main aisle. Connor occasionally hears kids rumbling about it. Look at him living like a king, while the rest of us get nothing but a bedroll. Nature of the beast, Trace is always quick to remind him. Respect doesn't come without a little resentment. Connor knows he's right, but he doesn't have to like it. The Holy of Holies arrived mostly on time for the meeting. Once inside, they swivel side to side in the plush leather chairs for no other reason than that they can. They enjoy the jet far more than Connor does. 6 out of 7 are present. Risa, who's the graveyard's chief medic, refuses to enter Connor's jet until she can roll in on her own, and a wheelchair ramp just to access Connor's jet seems like an extravagance. Trace, always the first to arrive, is head of security as well as Connor's strategic advisor. Hayden is master of the comm-bomb, running computer and radio communications, monitoring the outside world, police frequencies, and all communication with the resistance. He also has a radio station for the Holies, with a signal that barely reaches half a mile. He calls it Radio Free Hayden. There's a big bruiser of a girl everyone calls Bam, who is in charge of food services. Her real name is Bambi, but anyone who calls her that ends up being treated by Risa in the infirmary. There's Drake, a rural kid who is the sustainability boss, which is a fancy term for the guy who runs the farm, or the Green Aisle, which was entirely Connor's idea. The food it produces has more than once taken the edge off hunger pangs when ADR food shipments have been too small or non-existent. Next is John, a gum-chewing kid with a restless leg who's in charge of maintenance and waste management. And finally, Ashley, who claims to be very person-centered and deals with issues. And since just about every kid being tagged for unwinding has issues, she's probably the busiest of the bunch. So what's this about, Bam asked, because I got stuff to do. First off, Connor tells them, I met with the ADR dude today. We can expect more of the same. More and nothing is still nothing, Drake says. You got it. We've pretty much known we've been on our own for a while now. It's official. Deal with it. What about supplies and stuff? We can't scavenge from other planes, asked John, his leg bouncing more fiercely than usual. If we can't get cash from the front office to buy it, we'll have to creatively find it. Creatively finding is Connor's euphemism for stealing. He's had to send kids as far as Phoenix to creatively find things the ADR won't supply. Things like hard-to-find medications and welding torches. I just got word that a new jet is being retired here next Tuesday, Hayden tells them. I'm sure when we got it, we'll find a lot of things we need. Coolant compressors, hydraulic thingamajiggies, and all that hardcore mechanical blue-collar stuff. Is the baggage compartment going to be stuffed full of holies, someone asks. No plane arrives without mystery meat, Hayden says. No telling how many kids there will be, though. I hope there aren't any coffins this time, Ashley says. Do you have any idea how many kids had nightmares from that? Oh, please. Coffins are so last month, says Hayden. This time it's beer kegs. The bigger issue, says Connor, is having an escape plan. We can't rely on the ADR to save us if the Juvies decide it's time for fresh parts. Why don't we just bail now, asks Ashley, and find a new place to be? It's not that easy to move 700 kids, and doing it would be like sending up a flare to every juvie cop in Arizona. Hayden's team has been doing a pretty good job tracking the threat level, so we'll have at least some warning before a raid. But if we don't have an exit strategy, we're screwed no matter what. Bam throws a glare at Trace, who never says much at these meetings. What does he think? I think you should do whatever Connor tells you to do, Trace says. Bam snorts. Spoken like a true army buff. Air Force, says Trace. You'd be wise to remember that. The point is, says Connor, coming between them before Ashley can launch into her anger management speech, that we all need to be thinking about how to kick out of here on a moment's notice if we have to. The rest of the meeting deals with the minutiae of management. Connor wonders how the Admiral could stomach conversations about sanitary napkin supply when the threat of harvest camp was a clear and present danger every minute of every day. It's all about delegation, Trace has said, which is the real reason why Connor had called this meeting. You can all go, Connor finally tells everyone, except for Bam and John. We still have things to talk about. Everyone files out, and Connor has John wait outside while he privately talks to Bam. Connor knows what he must do, he just doesn't want to do it. Some people take joy in dishing out bad news, but Connor was never like that. He knows what it's like to be pulled up short, to be told that you're useless, that you're better off unwound. Bam stands with arms folded, sweating attitude. So, what's up? Tell me about the tainted meatloaf. Bam shrugs like it's nothing. What's the big deal? The generator to one of the refrigerators blew out. It's fixed now. How long was the power out? Don't know. So you had no clue how long the thing was without power, and you still served the food inside? How was I supposed to know people would get sick? They ate it, so that's their problem. Connor imagines the punching bag and makes a fist with his right hand. Then he looks at the shark and forces his hand to relax. More than 40 kids were down for over 2 days, and you're lucky it wasn't worse. Yeah, right, so I won't let it happen again. Bam says it in such a rude tone of voice. Connor can imagine her saying it the same way to her teachers, her parents, the juvies, every authority figure in her life. Connor hates the fact that he's one of those authority figures now. There won't be a next time, Bam. I'm sorry. You're getting rid of me just because of one stupid screw-up? No one is getting rid of you, Connor tells her, but you won't be running food service anymore. She burns him a long, hateful glare, then says, Fine. To hell with you. I don't need this crap. Thank you, Bam, he says, having no idea what possessed him to thank her. Send John in on your way out. Bam kicks the jet hatch open and storms out. She turns to John, who waits nervously outside, twisted in a full-body flinch from her angry exit. Go on in, Bam growls at him. He's firing you. That night, Connor finds Starkey doing close-up magic for a bunch of holies beneath the recreation jet. How does he do that? Kids ask as he makes bracelets disappear from wrists and appear in other people's pockets. When he's done, Connor approaches him. You're pretty good, but as the guy in charge, I should ask you to tell me how it's done. Starkey only smiles. A magician never reveals his secrets, not even to the guy in charge. Listen, says Connor, cutting to the chase. There's something I want to talk to you about. I've decided to shake things up in the Holy of Holies. A change for the better, I hope, Starkey says, gripping his stomach. Connor chuckles because he already knows Starkey sees where this is going, but that's okay. How would you like to be in charge of food? I love food, Starkey says, and I'm not just saying that. Do you think you can handle a team of 30 and get food on the table 3 times a day for everyone else? Starkey waves his hand and makes an egg appear out of thin air, then hands it to Connor. He saw the egg trick a few minutes earlier, but now its relevance makes it even more entertaining. Great, says Connor. Now conjure up 700 more for breakfast. And he walks away, chuckling to himself, knowing that Starkey does have what it takes to make things happen, and make them happen right. For once, Connor's sure he's made the right decision.